Good afternoon, all. This is Drishti Pant from People Matters. Welcome to today's session on the topic Boosting Experience in a Hybrid World of Work, Building Cohesive Approach to Measure and Improve EX in Partnership with Zimeo. Companies are using multiple technology platforms, right from organizational social networking, employee recognition and rewards, centimeters, discussion rooms, and fun activities. As the hybrid workplace evolves, these tools, ideas, and platforms will continue to be critical to measuring and improving employee experience. But how can companies collate insights from these multiple platforms and manage them effectively? In this virtual panel discussion, we will talk to industry experts to understand how they manage multiple platforms and how they integrate insights to present compelling value to employees and the business. To help us with their detailed insights and expertise, we have with us Atul Joshi, Vice President HR and Admin, Mahindra and Mahindra Finance Services Limited, and Anu Yadav, Lead Implementations, People and Culture at Zillow. Welcome, Atul and Anu.
Thank you, Drishti.
Hi.
Before we start with the session and I move to the questions, I would like to tell the audience, please note that we will be taking live Q&A sessions at the end of the session. So feel free to share your questions for our speakers anytime during the sessions in the comment section. We will try to respond to as many questions as the time allows. Now, without any delay, let me start with my first question. What are some of top priorities on delivering a great employee experience based on the shifts this past year? Atul, if I can request you to start with this question on how you are approaching the need to rethink the environment so that people feel more valued and are able to perform their jobs effectively, even in this hybrid work mode.
Okay. So Drishti, it's like a loaded question, and there are two parts to it. You talked about the priorities in the context of the shifts that have happened, and in the second part you talked about what actions we are doing so that people feel valued, right? Before answering the question, let me talk about maybe 30 seconds to give you a background of where I come from. In terms of at Mahindra Finance, which is in the NBFC space, right? And we have we are essentially in the business of lending for vehicles, largely a rural presence, with about 20,000 workforce spread across the country. At about 1,300 branches which are there even in the remote parts of the country. So given this, where people are really our assets in true sense, we don't have any plant and machinery, and that makes the people very critical. Now, with that background, if you see the last year, which has been a black swan event, everybody got impacted, and there are clearly three shifts which I see happening, or which have happened. The first one, the biggest one that all of us were longing for but didn't get an opportunity is the work from home or a hybrid work scenario. The second one is because of the pandemic. I think the whole focus on wellness of employees got bigger. And the third shift that I see is the whole push for digitization and the digital got kind of accelerated. Right. So if you look at these three shifts in terms of work from home or to that extent work from anywhere, wellness of employees and digital, see enabling these shifts to make the employees more engaged and obviously productive is the critical thing that all organizations, including Mahindra Finance, which has focused. Right. And to me, largely it comes from two aspects. There are hard and a soft aspect. Uh, I define employee experience like it's a product of what you call as methods, policies, and the connect, which is the soft part. So, how do we enable the methods and processes in the context of these shifts, as well as how do we ensure that there's an enhanced people connect, and people connect can be by the line managers, can by the reviewing managers, and obviously by the HR. So we have worked on both these dimensions of policies as well as the connect.
Okay. Okay. So I think you rightly said as three things have emerged as critical talent priorities. One is work from home, second wellness, and then the push for digital. And we've seen so many surveys that people are ready to quit if they are not getting these three things, especially wellness and flexibility to work from anywhere. So I know that brings me to you, and if you can also address how you, in your experience, have these seen these priorities shift. Has it been the same as Atul shared for you, or have you had some different kind of experience?
So, Drishti, I would agree with Atul on certain points here. However, given the experience of Mahindra, Zimyo is comparatively, a startup in the market, and it
Right.
becomes, more difficult for us to have people engaged with us, to have new talent on board with us, and then, to keep them running with us, especially, when the last year has been shifting a lot here and there, in terms of, people worrying about their financial stabilities, their job securities. So the three things that we majorly or primarily focused on, to provide our employees with the physical and mental wellness, and ensuring their financial stability, and ensuring the job security as well. We have seen in the market, there have been layoffs, there have been pay cuts, which affected the employees, the employees who have been with the organization for some time. Even in that difficult time, we ensured and we had that, faith in our employees that, we did not do any layoffs, we did not do any pay cuts. In fact, to everybody's, surprise, we actually doubled our team size in the last year. And that's where, we thought, okay, fine, it is working really well for us, even in these times. So the focus points were these three that I mentioned, and to ensure those pointers, wherein how we can, keep on moving with those points, we ensured, that we have our employees and their families covered, for under COVID situation into medical insurance. We encourage them for vaccinations. We encourage them. We also provided them for small things. In startups, smallest things matter a lot for fresh talent. So we gave them vaccination leaves. We gave them vaccination reimbursements. We also help them with if you need paid leaves to take care of your family members. We extended our support even until the family members of our employees. So yeah, I think that's what we our top priorities as an organization have been, and in the coming times as well. Even though everything comes to a stable stage, these points would always remain the backbone and the pointers for us in the coming times as well.
Thank you, Anu. And I think it's interesting to see here that how we have two diverse business models and two diverse kind of talent pools that we are talking about and referring to here. And now that brings me to the second question. As we look at the various nuances of implementing a hybrid work model for a longer term now, and not just only experimenting it, but making it a way of working now, a
Hmm.
new way of work. So it there are many layers to it. So if Atul, you can start with this, and if you can share how you are addressing these various layers of implementing the hybrid work model.
Yeah. So, Drishti, Mahindra Finance, that way, as compared to a startup culture, we are a relatively old, 25 years plus organization, which has evolved over more than 2 decades. So,
Right.
shifting to work from home scenario was not, very easy. But, as compared to what we had imagined, we could, really adopt it very well. When we are talking of a work from home scenario, yes, or a hybrid scenario, and there are challenges that come along with it because, for example, not all our 20,000 employees had laptops to work on, right? So how to change some of those things? How to ensure that people have the laptops? How do we change the policies? Or those who have desktops, they are given desktops at home, then being sensitive to some of the employee needs. I mean, while you may give these basic things, office equipment over there, but they won't have the office like a setup, or office table, or office comfortable chair to work with. So how do you change your policies? How do you enable them with some reimbursement so that they have some basic
Hmm.
infrastructure, office infrastructure set up at home? So these are the hard part, which I talked about the methods. To some extent, for example, Wi-Fi reimbursement, right? So these are the things that we did from a policy point of view. On the softer side, see, it is also important to note that all people may not have houses big enough to allow them work from home in a very efficient manner, right?
Hmm.
There'll be some background noise, and so you have to be the managers have to be comfortable with those kind of nuances, and so it was very important that we sensitize people on those things. And as you rightly said, initially everyone felt कि ठीक है, it could be for a month or a two, but as things progress and it became a way of life, uh, like the working hours extended, and meetings were happening till late evening, calls were being made on even on the weekends. So it was very important to sensitize the people managers that while it is a work from home doesn't mean that like they are available to you 24/7,
Yeah.
right? And everybody needs their space even when they are work from home, or for that matter even when people are at home they need their personal space, personal time. So sensitizing these people on handling these nuances of the hard part, which can be taken care by through the policy changes, and on the soft part by sensitizing the people managers is how we are finding it.
Right, right, and
Right.
I know for you how has it been, because as we shared and addressed earlier, it's a different talent pool for you, and people were probably already familiar with working from home. So how was the transition? Were there different challenges that you faced, maybe?
Drishti, for you like rightly said, being in the product industry, it was a little easier for us to, have our people aligned with work from home capacity, because majorly, all of them come from the ID background, and they have been, into this work from home setup. If not for a longer duration, but yes, on and off, they have been into it. But one point that Atul mentioned, I would 100% agree with it. Sensitizing the people. It is really important for us as well. As leaders, as managers in the organization. We cannot expect our teams to be available throughout the day. We cannot expect them. You are saving on the travel time. Be available for that time as well.
Hmm.
So, informing, educating our team leads, about the importance of, work-life balance, the importance of how, good is mental stability, mental wellness is for their team, and how it will increase the productivity. These were the few pointers that we identified, and we worked upon these pointers. We started educating our team leads on these points, started telling them, have that sympathy, that empathy with your teammates in case they are not available, in case they are asking for, very ad hoc leaves. Don't ask questions. It's a difficult time for everybody. A person sitting at a CEO level to a person who has recently joined us. It's difficult time for everybody across the industry, the market, and the organization. So I think for us, Atul correctly highlighted the point. The topmost thing for us was, to have our people, have that feeling of empathizing and sensitivity amongst the board. Yeah.
I think
Uh,
something. Yeah.
Drishti, if I can add to what Anu mentioned, right? See, this was a time when there was a lot of anxiety with people,
Yeah.
right? It could be of not having a salary, or it could be losing a job. People were hearing, listening to what was happening in outside. While as a company, I must proudly say that we ensured that all our employees, I mean nobody lost their job, and everybody kept on getting their monthly salary on time. Right. Now, these are the psychological safety measures which are very, very important. And if I link it to what you mentioned earlier in terms of what makes people valued in such difficult situations, right? See, there are dimensions of valuing an individual at the personal level and valuing an individual at the professional level. Right. Now, when you're working from home, or not in the office, right? There's always a fear that whether it is going to be out of sight, out of mind. whether since I'm not there, just sitting across the table with my boss, whether he does he understand what kind of a hard work am I doing, right? So it was very important to recognize small achievements of people, because when there was a particularly in the second wave, when there was a so much of a negativity and a concern on the mind of people, every effort had to be made to generate positivity in the mind of people, give them that psychological safety through personal connect. So we really did a good job in terms of connecting people at one-to-one level on a very regular basis, not just with individual employees, but extending it to their families. And we have a very good practice, which I would like to share is, at the start of month, on the maybe first or second working day of the month, we have a all India webcast where the senior management of team addresses all 20,000 employees in one go. Right. So that directly hearing from the topmost boss, the managing director, vice chairman, it's a phenomenal kind of a confidence building measure, which works. And then when you have this personal connect, that gives the feeling that I am valued, right? And personal connect in terms of understanding the personal circumstances of an individual. If somebody has really gone through a bad time, difficult time, somebody in the family has been infected, hospitalized, taking care of that, asking about it, ensuring that not burdening somebody unnecessarily with work when there have been difficult times. So valuing somebody at the personal level and valuing somebody at the professional level, like creating success stories of small things that they have done even during difficult times, social work that they have done. Now that created a a big positive feeling and a valued feeling for the employees.
Thank you, Atul, for that. And I think that now that the uncertainty still continues and there is still some level of anxiety about what's going to happen, what the future holds, it is important that we hold on to these things that I think we picked up over the last 1.5 years. And that actually brings me to my next question, which I think both of you talked about a bit as well, on how the stress and anxiety has increased over the time. And while you have addressed how you can feel employees, make them feel valued, if you can maybe double click or dive deeper into the thing that you were mentioning about sensitizing people, to give them that, or maybe taking up a few more new initiatives in ensuring that employees are able to have that work life balance and the stress is under control. So is there anything else that you've done, any new initiative that you might have introduced?
Yeah, so initiatives is like as far as the pandemic was concerned. I mean, one initiative that we had was the teleconsulting services. If somebody got infected, with COVID and was home quarantine, then there was a facility provided, wherein we have a Mahindra Group supported company called Nightingale. So through that, there was a doctor consultation available. There was a daily, nurse call being made to check on the well-being, guidance being given for the 15 days of quarantine period. We have a tab with the service provider, wherein all our employees and four of their family members are eligible for a doctor consultation. There are sessions. We did a lot of webinars as far as how to manage the personal and professional life, or how to manage the work-life balance. There are one-to-one in a confidential manner service available for psychological counseling, stress management at the individual level. So these are the platforms and the facilities that we created, for our employees. And for example, the kind of what Anu was talking about, the various support policies that we created, whether it was related to leaves, whether it was related to vaccination, or for that matter, hospitalization, additional support in case of medical expenses going beyond limit. So all that provided a lot of psychological safety, and that itself reduced a burden.
Hmm.
In cases where there have been unfortunate situations of a death because of COVID, the kind of support that we have provided to the family, and over a period of time till the kids of the deceased employee are taken care of till their graduation. So these are some of the things that really helped in terms of putting people at ease, during those testing times.
Okay, okay. I know how has it been for you, because uh, as we know that startups and product companies generally are always in this hustle mode. So how has it been for you? How are you managing this psychological safety?
Uh, so for us, Drishti, like I said earlier, we have introduced a few things, in terms of covering our employees and their families on the health part. Besides this, to keep the motivation level up for our employees, we recently started with certain, R&R activities internally, wherein, we do a weekly activity as well, and weekly rewarding activity, and then, a quarterly rewarding activity to keep up the, the vibes and the energy up on the floor. Besides these things, this talks about how we are, letting our employees know, they are valued even in these terms, days. So, when we are working from home, despite of being asking our teammates, they tend to, have long working hours, extended working hours. And I think there is no better way to tell employees, to give them timely feedback, to give them timely rewards that, yes, we see what you are doing, what extra efforts you are putting in us, despite of being in this difficult times. So I think timely feedback and timely rewards is something we started focusing on. Along, like you said, we being a startup, so the average age group that we have around here is majorly youngsters that we have on board. So to have them, feel connected with the organization or on, to each other. We do a Friday get together for everybody, wherein, till now what we have covered is motivation speakers we have called in. We have also called in, for yoga sessions. These were on the more on the, the health part. However, to lighten the mood, we had virtual music sessions for our teams, and we also paneled up with a few of the stand-up comedians, who came in, who spoke to the team, who lightened the mood, and fortunately enough, team now looks forward to all of these Friday activities wherein, we interact with each other. We also call in, few of our management people. They come in, they talk to the team, they motivate them, they pump them, tell them, what they feel, good in Zimyo, why they believe in Zimyo, and all of that. I think, such small things really add to, to the motivation levels of the employees. So I think, yes, like Atul also said, new things will keep on coming, and whatever, it comes to us as a feedback from the employees, we are also very open for feedback. Let's say if in case we run out of ideas, we open the channel for our employees. We take polls, we ask them, what are you looking forward now to. So, as and when we keep on getting feedbacks from our employees, suggestions from them, we try and incorporate those suggestions, because they also feel connected with the company, involved with the company policies in that case. So yeah, that's what we have been focusing in terms of, having people connected with us.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think you rightly said the small efforts have the largest of impact, and that's something that both you and Atul have highlighted. And I know that you were talking about, how you are listening to your employees and taking inputs and insights from them, and then improving and working on your talent strategies. So Atul, that actually brings me to my next question. And if you can take this up on how you are using these insights, or to begin with, how you're capturing these insights, and then how are you using them and utilizing them to take better decisions and creating a better experience for them?
Yeah, so as Anu mentioned, it is the most important thing to listen to people, right? Because particularly in our case, when we were operating from a head office in Mumbai, 1,000 people, there were 19,000 people who were there in the field, right? So issuing some policy from head office and asking across the country to implement it without knowing what the ground realities are, because how when things started becoming normal, what kind of a government regulations were there, whether it is a 20% attendance, whether it is a 30% attendance, things were differing from different places, where somewhere RT-PCR required, somewhere it is not required. So allowing people or empowering them to take the local level decisions, right? Was a biggest thing. We realized that we cannot make a centralized policy and then roll it out across the country. The insight was, okay, let people, let's trust people and let empower the local people to take decisions based on that, right? So we kept on continuously listening to people, as I mentioned, whether it was through focus group discussion, whether it was personal connect of people. When we started traveling, that was an opportunity to actually get to know, what how things are hands on, and we used all that, of listening to people to really understand what people want, and it kept on changing from time to time. For example, in the initial period, things like, okay, we don't have a Wi-Fi at home, so can some policy be done to allow Wi-Fi reimbursement, there?
Hmm.
How do we change the attendance policy? Because of the pandemic, many employees were not in a position to consume their privilege leave in that year, right? So taking policy decisions to extend usage of that leave benefit, right? Allowing people to work from anywhere. So we have
Hmm.
different offices, so not necessary that you have to go to your base location. Suppose some location, some office is closer to your residence, go and work from there. So there are multiple policy changes, we brought in. As I mentioned, one of the shifts was the digital. So we use this time to kind of really drive our digital learning process, the bite-sized learning process, because we could use that time to really educate people and, and provide them the the content that we have through the tie-ups with like Harvard Spark or Coursera. So providing them this whole digital dimension was another thing that we said, like, let's utilize this time to drive this change in terms of policies and the platforms, the methods that we are enabling people to have.
Right, right. I know. If you can also talk about this on especially. I think, as Atul also mentioned, how the entire experience and working experience has a direct impact on employees' ability to work, be productive, and perform. So how have are you at Zimio utilizing these insights on improving the workplace performance?
So Drishti, for us, like I said earlier as well, people or employ first is the policy or is the motto that we follow internally, right? We One thing that we ensure, we whenever we have daily calls internally, we ask or we urge our teams to put on their cameras. When you talk to somebody and when you see them also, it brings a different kind of emotion. You understand what that person is feeling. If the cameras are off and you're talking, it becomes a very robotic kind of a conversation. So that is one thing, we urge our employees, go ahead, speak to each other. And then we have not limited them, that you can speak only to your RMs or maybe your team leads or people around your team. So as and when anybody new joins in, we make it a point that in our weekly activities we introduce them to the whole organization on the virtual network, give them the opportunity to talk about themselves, what experience they are coming into, what are their aspirations here, what they are expecting out of Zimio as an organization, what they are looking forward to. And recently we also extended our work from home until December. Looking at the situation might come to a good point, may not come to a good point, but then we were not willing to take any kind of chances, and we thought, okay, to the best of the interest of our employees, to people, let's have this extended. So that is also one thing we focused on, without thinking, without giving it a second thought, we extended it to 31st December, and we have received a tremendous response from our people on the same. Besides this, it becomes really challenging for us to have new people onboarded and have them connected with the already existing people on the floor. People who are with us for quite a long time, they understand what is the energy on the floor, how we work, how team leads are aligned, how the product is aligned, how the policies are aligned. Being a smaller organization, it becomes a bit easy for us, when compared to, Atul's situation. We run a buddy program internally, wherein we tag one person, an existing person, to somebody who has newly joined in, and we ensure that, the HR team speaks to that new employee every 30-45 days to keep a track how they're feeling. Is everything working fine? Are they well versed with the policies now? How's the buddy keeping up? And then we also go ahead and speak to the buddy as well, how the new person is feeling in the organization. Do you think there is something more we can do? Do you feel anything, wherein, we should pitch into the employee and, make them feel comfortable around? Yeah.
All right, all right. I think that's a great point you made about onboarding new employees and new joinees that are joining in. And I think Atul also mentioned how at Mahindra Finance they continue to strengthen their workforce. And as you're welcoming these new joinees, while other people have been familiar with the culture and the system of work, for them it's a new thing. They are joining at a time where they can't see the office, they can't
Right.
catch the vibe that's physically present in the office. So how do you create an experience for them? And it's a very important moment in the entire employee life cycle, right? So Atul, how are you managing this challenge of creating that awesome experience or onboarding experience for your new joinees?
So just to share with you, see, I moved from Mahindra and Mahindra to Mahindra Finance
Okay.
about a year back on 1st of April last year. So
Okay.
my transition to the new organization also happened during pandemic. So in the last 15 months, I have been to office only 3 times, in that sense. So I was completely new to the organization, and so I could really relate what people will be going through when they are joining the new organization. At least I was from the Mahindra group, so it was while it was a completely different entity that I joined, but at least it was for, within the Mahindra group. But that helped me really empathize with people in terms of if somebody is really coming from outside, and if there is no extra effort made by the organization to allow the individual to assimilate into the new culture, into the new way of working, when he's not able to kind of physically mingle around with his colleagues. Everything is on the on the Microsoft Teams, or just talking to the screen. You don't know the body language. So it was specific efforts made, and like Anu mentioned, we also have a buddy program, and in fact the responsibility of the buddy as well as the HR team and the reviewing manager, became extremely important because they had to be sensitized that there have to be more check-ins. See, earlier when things were normal, maybe you are talking to the new joinee once in 30 days, but in the current in the situation where it is a remote working, you don't know how things are happening. The more frequent check-ins and understanding about the individual was very, very critical.
All right, all right. That so onboarding is one of the important as I said, moment that matters in the entire employee life cycle. But there are other many layers or other sub functions and sub elements as well in the entire employee life cycle. And where else, Anu, do you see the opportunities for organizations to leverage technology and maximize on that opportunity?
Drishti, I would say, there are times wherein, if, companies are surviving in this time, it is only because of technology, even if, today we are talking, it is only because of technology, we get connected to each other. Phones are always there, but we cannot keep on calling people, and it is always really important, right now in today's time, to virtually connect with each other via video conferencing and all. So I think technology is a boon for us. In it is a really great platform that we have, in this time, and we try and make the complete use of it. Like I said, we encourage our employees to speak to each other, having their cameras on. Besides this, we are also, like Atul mentioned earlier, having certain certifications, getting paneled up with websites like Coursera and all. So we have also, we are also working on certain, areas like this, wherein we are in the process of having certain, few LMS systems inside the organization. Anybody new who joins in being in the product market, it really is important for us that everybody on the floor understands how our product works. So internally as well, our focus is on having our employees very well versed with our product. Besides our own internal product, we always keep on encouraging our employees that, wherever you feel, whatever you feel, a training, a certification, a class, or a course is required for you to upscale your skills, please go ahead and do it. You do not have to think twice. We will reimburse everything that comes as an expense to it. So I think leveraging these skills using technology of our employees has been our topmost focus until now. And I think that is one thing we would keep our focus always on. And there are few things that we will pick up with time eventually. But then, in this competitive time, and in this time wherein we can make the most of our time, I would say that upskilling the skills of our employees is something we are focusing on using the technology.
All right, all right. And I think skilling and using digital learning is something that Atul had also mentioned about. And
Yes.
from the very beginning, Atul, you've talked about the push for digital and how has it emerged as one of the critical priorities for HR
Hmm.
leaders and business leaders. So, Atul, if you can talk about one or other two areas as well, where do you think where you think there is a great opportunity for HR leaders to utilize technology, but it is not. It's at a very nascent stage, you think, and it can be there's something that they can pick on.
See, actually, technology has become now a kind of a widely pervasive, and it runs across the value chain of the whole employee life cycle, right?
Right.
And there are harder parts and there are softer parts. For example, this whole situation of a pandemic or a work from home forced us to look at our policies from a very different lens, and allow more people to have laptops, allow more people to have collaboration platforms like Office 365. And we are encouraging people not to even use it just for a video conferencing facility, but use the multiple features which are available over there in terms of file sharing, because the amount of mail exchange which has increased because of work from home, and that also creates a stress. So using this different technologies from the harder side, we had the success factor, as a system, as a LMS. We are investing in the learning experience platform. We are using this opportunity because that's going to be the future. Digital is going to be the way of learning, and we need the artificial intelligence and machine learning to provide customized learning solutions to our employees. And as I mentioned, whether it is about recruitment or whether it is about communication of employee policies. Recently we have implemented a chatbot which takes care of the routine transactions where the time of our business HRs was going, in handling the basic queries about policies which are put forward by the employees. But now it's taken care by the chatbot.
Hmm.
We invested in HR analytics. So we have the the HR MIS coming as a dashboard. All our MIS, all our attrition analytics is coming. We have invested in predictive analytics for people. So there are multiple applications of technology in the HR space, I will say, which run across the value chain of the employee cycle, right from what you call the onboarding, how smooth it can be done to right up to exit.
Right.
And we are using technology all across this spectrum.
That's great. That's great, Atul. Thank you for sharing that. And now that brings me to my last question that I have for you, and then we move to the questions from the audience. I can see already a lot of questions coming in. So maybe one last question that I have for you all is, as we look at this future roadmap now, and future is as uncertain as it could get. I mean, it was always uncertain, but it has, thanks to the pandemic, been being more unpredictable now. So, as we plan this future roadmap, how do you, or what is that one thing that you will focus on to improve and enhance your employees' experience?
As I mentioned, the future is very uncertain. Nobody knows what will happen 6 months down the line. Forget about 2 years, down the line. Hence, it
Right.
is very important to continuously keep on picking up signals and inciting us what is changing.
Okay.
Right? Is your employee profile changing? Are employee needs changing? Is there a new invent of technology which has come in the market? So we have to continuously keep on scanning the environment, what is happening outside, and listening internally to our employees as to what they need. Right. Once you have these two put together, then there has to be an open mind to really, as I mentioned, how do you change your policies, processes, methods to really address the issues, which are, your new age issues. See, 1 year back, it would have been very difficult to implement a work from home policy, right? But now that's almost given,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe earlier it was difficult to provide laptops to a particular grade of employees,
Right.
but now it's considered as a basic thing because it's not a luxury. It's something which is required to improve the productivity of people,
Hmm.
Hmm.
right? How are you going to come up with new things? For example, you may have to change the reward system. You may have to change your incentive system,
Yes.
right? In the work from home scenario, we may have to change our whole performance management system, right? So how open you are to all these changes, and again, one has to be clear as to what suits a particular business.
Absolutely.
Because somebody else has done it, I want to do it may not be the right approach. Whether it is suitable to your employee, your organization, your business strategy, because at the end of the day, whatever you are doing has to be aligned to your business strategy, and that could be very different from your competition. It could be very different from your another group company in a different sector altogether. So one has to be very mindful of what you are trying to do, whether it is suitable for your business, whether it is relevant for your business, and whether it is aligned to your business strategy.
Thank you. I think it's important, and we already addressed that before also. Listening and capturing all the signals from the outside and within the organization. What are the employees' expectations? That has to continue and has to be an ongoing exercise. And then, according to their employees' need and business strategy and priorities, adjusting those practices and not just copy pasting, right? So thank you, Atul, for those inputs. And Anu, if you can also share your thoughts on this, on designing the future roadmap, what's the one thing that Zimia would focus on?
Okay, so Drishti, our focus, like I said earlier, have been on mental wellness, financial stability, and job security. However, recently we have entered into the embedded finance, wherein we are offering the benefits to our employees, and we have built it internally, and then we have paneled up with certain financial organizations outside the organization. And I think it's high time that we should also focus on financial well-being of our employees, allowing them to have their financial needs met internally, despite of they are putting in so much time with the organization, and then if there is any financial need, they are running around in the market. So that is one thing we identified in the pandemic. Even though you have planned certain things, there are situations that are unplanned, and to move out of those situations, I think finances are the most important thing. You need to have that financial stability. So more than their need, I think they deserve it from our end, that we should focus on their financial needs, and us as an organization, we are focusing on having those financial needs met for our employees. And by this embedded system that we have built internally, the organizations outside the market, they can also make use of this. So for us, I think mental, physical wellness is at one part, which is also important. But I think it's time to look out for the financial needs of the employees and the emotional support that they need. So yes, I think these 2 points for us would be on the roadmap to focus on and to work upon to have our people with us for a longer duration.
That's great, Anu. I think financial wellness has been ignored for far too long, and it's now time to include it in the entire wellness strategy for organizations. So, thank you so much for your insights, Atul and Anu, for the questions that I had for you. And now, I think it's time that we can move to the Q&A from the audience. And the very first question that I have is around the practices that have had most impact. And I think we've talked about a lot of practices here
Hmm.
already, and you've seen those that the positive impact of those practices as well. But if you would like to, any of you would like to highlight that one practice maybe that has had the greatest impact for you among every practices that you have introduced. So
Uh,
go ahead.
Yeah,
okay,
I
yeah.
know you got.
Okay, so Drishti, what worked really well for us is to have the connect of our, management with everybody who's joining us. It becomes easier for us to have that connect. So everybody who joins us, we ensure that the people, the topmost people for us, they speak to them, not once, not only once when they are joining, but we try and make it a very recurring process where they also feel connected with the visions and the missions of the organization. They feel connected with, okay, fine, this is how my organization and this is what my organization is aiming towards to. And once they speak to the people sitting at the top, founders, co-founders, they feel that zeal, they feel that passion in their thoughts, and how they communicate those thoughts. And with continuous communication with these people, uh, a fresher who's joining us, an experienced person who's joining us, the passion that gets divided, and it gets divided in a manner that it becomes a collaborative effort, and then it helps the organization in moving ahead.
All
So
right.
yes, communication with the topmost people that we have in the organization has had a greatest impact for us.
All right. Atul, you would like to add anything to that? What has worked for Mahindra Finance?
Yeah, so I will talk about this issue of communication from two perspectives. One is a top-down communication, which in a way is a one-way
Hmm.
communication. I talked about our practice of a monthly webcast where the senior management, the senior most management, directly communicates, with all the employees across the hierarchy, in terms of how our business is doing, how the previous month has been there, what priorities are there, and so on. So that's one way. Second is creating various platforms wherein we are able to listen from the bottom,
Hmm.
right? Understanding employees, listening to them, understanding their concerns, and showing the willingness of the management to quickly come up with changes which are required. Now, whether it's a policy change or sometimes the senior management leading from the front in terms of some new behavioral practices, like no calls beyond a particular time, or not calling people on unnecessarily on Sundays. So, leading from the front by the by the leadership team has kind of a really helped. Apart from
Hmm.
the various connections of the connect and the policy changes, COVID related thing that we have done, has surely helped us.
Right, and Atul, you were talking about policy changes, and I can see one question here from Atul, who's asking if what kind of company policies are adequate during the pandemic, and would you like to suggest any changes or updation required? If I can maybe take Atul's permission in rephrasing it, if you can highlight the policy changes that you think are required right now, that the HR leaders must address those policy changes, and they shouldn't be ignored in the current scenario.
So there are two types of policy changes one has to look at. One is something that will make our people more productive in the hybrid scenario, then whether it is related to the laptops, whether it is related to some software technology, whether some reimbursement. So that's one kind of a policy change
Right.
that I can look at. The other things as I talked about are related to the wellness, because that's very very critical. And Anu also kind of laid stress upon that in terms of how wellness is becoming very critical. So something, the kind of policies we possibly we did not have earlier, because the whole pandemic has kind of opened the eyes of everybody, and there's a new uh, way of looking at the wellness, not only the physical wellness but also the emotional wellness, the psychological wellness that has to be addressed. Now, for example, psychological wellness was not so prominent maybe 1 year back, 15 months back, but now that also has to be addressed. So the policies which will make people productive, the policies which will kind of give comfort as far as the wellness is concerned, are surely coming as a prominent area for HR leaders to look at.
Right, and I think you earlier also talked about this, having the infrastructural things all in place and resources, and also taking care of the soft parts.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Atul, for answering that question. And I think the next question that we have is one of the biggest challenges that every HR leader, I think, grapples with. That how do you create that balance between business priorities and ensure that human connect and personalization as well, especially during current in the current scenario. So Anu, if you want to pick that up first, and how you are maybe creating or putting the best efforts to create that balance.
Sure, Drishti. So like I said, our motto is employee first. We focus on our people first, and Atul has also highlighted this point in the very beginning of the session. How we can sensitize everybody in the organization. Inculcate that feeling of empathy and connectivity amongst everybody on board. So I think that's the answer to this question. Sensitivity is really important. People should understand each other. If somebody is going through a tough time, we can always hear them out. Have that connect with them, be available for them. And also, one thing I really believe in, that we understand it's a business first world. It's a business first market out there. But then your business will flourish when you have your employees or your people's getting flourished, getting valued, getting prioritized internally. So it for us it works in a similar manner. We keep our employees happy. We tell them that you are first for us, and then in return, they feel valued, they feel connected with the organization, and in return they keep the customers happy. So it's a win-win situation for us. Everything is working in circles for us. Employees are happy, customers are happy, business is booming. So I think it's a kind of a win-win situation for us here.
Okay. And what about you, Atul? How are you creating that balance in Mahindra Finance and people
So,
opportunity?
we clearly laid focus on people first, in fact, more than the business. So, particularly, if you look at the last year, in the first phase of COVID-19, in the first 2 months was, virtually, last April, May was virtually a, washout for us. And when things started kind of opening up, our branches started opening, auto dealerships started opening. By that time, what had happened is, a lot of people had gone back to their natives, and there was a lot of hesitancy in terms of coming. Though the branch was kind of open, but there was a lot of hesitancy in terms of allowing people to come to office. There was a pressure from the family. Why you are going? Unnecessarily, why you are taking risk. So we made it very clear that there is no force on people to kind of make it compulsory for them to come to office, right? And that gave a huge amount of confidence in them and with their families that the organization is really taking care of them. Of course, there was an impact in terms of our business, but we were very conscious that it is important to take care of the people and the families first. And same thing we continued even during the in the second phase of the COVID, where more and more people were affected, and there was a huge amount of a concern coming back to office, and start attending office. But we said unless or until people are comfortable, we will not compel them to start coming to office.
Right. What I hear you both speak is that you take care of people and business gets just taken care of.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, Anu and Atul. And we have, I think, only 4 or 5 minutes left now. So there's just one last question maybe we can pick up before we close.
Mhm.
And this question is something that we had also discussed earlier about workplace burnout and stress. But maybe if we can emphasize more, because this is coming from the audience, on how do you ensure to turn everything into positives when the burnout is so high while working from home? Atul, you want to go first?
Yeah.
Or Anu?
So one thing that I believe, and so is the belief of our management, is see, when there is a burnout, when there is a crisis, then there's a lot of work pressure. It is very important for leaders to be very authentic and genuine. Continuously communicate in a very transparent manner, whatever is the situation there, whether the business has not done well, reasons for it, and how do you plan to correct the situation going forward. Now, once we communicate very authentically and very transparently,
Yes.
that to me is a half the battle won, and that's what the crux of the leadership which gets tested. When there is if there is a burnout, then whether, as Anu mentioned, are people managers sensitive about handling people in such scenarios. The burnout could be coming up because of work pressure. The burnout could be coming up because of it's a combination of work pressure and some problem in the family.
Hmm.
The circumstances are not allowing it, but then it's all about being empathetic to the situation, understanding the individual as a human being more than just a professional, and treating him as an individual. That kind of creates the that see, the whole thing is all about building trust. Right. And if you're able to, as a leader, as an organization, if you're able to build trust amongst your partners, now whether it is leaders, whether it's your employees or anybody else, now that makes the big difference. So we are focused on ensuring that we are transparently communicating with people, and ensuring that we are building your, not forget about losing trust, but enhancing our trust with
Hmm.
our employees and
Yeah.
families.
Thank you, Atul. Anu, I think you were also wanting to say something on this.
Drishti, I am of the same opinion as Atul is. Communication is the key. Unsatisfied people in the organization, I think there could be two reasons. One, they are not, nobody is hearing them out. They want to say something. They have some feedback to share. Something might be bothering them. However, if the communication channels internally are open, transparent, and they can reach out to anybody at any point of time. And even though we have hierarchies in place, but then those hierarchies should not stop anybody in the organization to speak to anyone on the floor. So I think communication is the key. You should hear out your people, take in consideration their concerns, go back to them with a solution, be empathetic to them, and have those communication channels open for them throughout their tenure in the organization. I think that will cut down the major part of the unsatisfaction and the disengagement in the organization. So I think communication is something I ensure, and I think Atul also ensures that communication should flow from in all the directions in the organization.
Right. I think that's emerging like the common theme from the entire discussion,
Right.
that to achieve success with employee experience in this uncertain time, it's important to communicate and have those authentic conversations and build that trust. And we have technology to help us do all of that.
Right.
It's on us of how we leverage this and ensure the human connect also while we do this. Thank you, Atul and Anu, so much for taking out time for this discussion. It was a very insightful discussion. I'm sure the audience also had a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, People Matters, for
Yeah.
providing this
Thanks,
opportunity.
Drishti, for having us. Yeah.
Thanks to Zimio, our partner as well, who helped us in stitching this program together. And for our audience, we'll be back with another session very soon. Meanwhile, you can fill the survey that you can see in the comment section, and you can let us know your experience of the entire session. Hope to see you soon.